coming.
All these voices. All these voices. All these things you can't explain. All these painful memories. They keep haunting you. It's daunting me. It's just a ghost of you and me. It's just a smoking gasoline. It's just a ghost of you and me. Of you and me. All these whispers.
My name is James Hershey. Right back.
All these shadows in my mind. With my reflections I can't find. It's just a ghost of you and me. It's just a smoking gasoline. It's just a
That ought to
ghost
do
of
it.
you and me. Of you and me. Don't let them take you away. Don't let them bring you down inside. It's just the mirrors in your mind. Don't let them bring you down.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How's everybody tonight?
On tonight's episode, we are going to be talking about a very interesting and very deadly little creature. Now, I'm sure that you have all heard of the leprechaun, and some of you are even familiar with its lore. But did you know that leprechauns were not only found in Celtic lore? America had its own version of the leprechaun in its native lore. Tonight we'll be talking about the legend of the Pukwudgie. And I think you will find that the leprechauns that you all know and love can't hold a candle to America's little badass. The Pukwudgie lore comes originally from the legends of the Wampanoag tribes. The legends tell us of a small troll-like being that can set fire to things. It can shoot poison arrows and lure unsuspecting people to their doom. It also has a lot of other very cool and very scary abilities. Pukwudgies are one of the oldest monsters in America, and Native American lore describes them as small, intelligent creatures that are covered in spines like a porcupine. The Pukwudgie can walk and talk just like a normal human, but they have absolutely nothing but hatred in their hearts towards mankind. The lore varies a little from tribe to tribe, but one thing is very, very clear, and that is that the Pukwudgie is a creature to be feared and never to be played with. The name Pukwudgie roughly translates to person of the wilderness. Now, depending on which tribe's lore you're going by, the Pukwudgie can have different personalities and different abilities. The Algonquin say that the Pukwudgie is similar to fairies or gnomes. The Ojibwe claim that they are mischievous tricksters that love to have fun at your expense. And that is a common thread through the majority of the lores. Pukwudgies are often seen as tricksters, but also as absolutely dangerous and deadly creatures. So they may play a trick on you, but they will most likely murder you after they've had a good laugh. Another common thread through all the different lore is that they weren't always so dangerous. And as a matter of fact, they started out trying to be friendly to mankind. So if you will indulge me, I am going to tell you the tale of the Pukwudgie. It all began with Maushop, who was a creation giant. And according to the tribes, he created most of the land that all the tribes lived on. Now, Mashop loved the people, and the people loved him back. Pukwudgie saw all of this affection that was passing back and forth from mankind to the giant, and they began to feel left out. To try and get a little love for themselves, the Pukwudgie began doing nice things for people, just trying to help them out, to make their lives easier. Their intentions were good, but unfortunately, they were not a very lucky race. And it seems that every single time they tried to help, it would always backfire in a spectacular fashion. It always ended in destruction and chaos. Now, as you can imagine, as this kept happening, the people were getting very pissed off at the Pukwudgie. And so they went to Mashop for help. Mashop wanted to make his people happy, so he gathered up all the Pukwudgie that he could find, and he threw them as far away as he could. Now, this resulted in the death of some of the Pukwudgies, but some of them survived. The ones that survived became very angry, and they wanted vengeance on Mashop and the people of the tribes for going to him. So the Pukwudgies returned, and they began killing and burning and kidnapping the people of the various tribes. Mashop learned what was happening, and he sent his sons to deal with the Pukwudgies. When Mashop's sons arrived, the Pukwudgies became even more enraged, and they killed all of his sons. Obviously, Mashop did not take kindly to this, so he tried to stop the Pukwudgies himself. But all of the different Pukwudgies banded together as one unit, and in an epic battle, they slayed the mighty Mashop. After the battle, the Pukwudgies went into hiding to lick their wounds and to recuperate. The legends state that they still wander the forest, taking their revenge on human beings that are foolish enough to wander by them. Throughout the centuries, they have been known to kidnap children and viciously attack anyone that they come into contact with. They have been known to blind victims by throwing sand in their eyes and then push them off of cliffs. Legend states that if you are planning to go through the forest, then you should offer up gifts to try and appease the Pukwudgies. If they find your gifts acceptable, then they will only play minor tricks on you while you're in the forest, such as causing you to get lost or to lose some of your stuff along your journey. But if they feel that your gifts were not worthy, or even worse, if you disrespect them by not offering any gifts at all, then they will hunt you down and they will kill everyone in your group. Now let's talk about how you can identify a Pukwudgie. What do they look like? Unlike the leprechauns of the Irish lore, the Pukwudgies look more like animals than men. The lore states that they have smooth gray skin, and that helps them to blend in with the forest. They also have sharp spines that run down the length of their backs, and they have enlarged ears, fingers, and noses. They are bipedal, which means they walk on 2 feet instead of 4, and they can move very, very quickly. They are between 2 and 3 feet tall. That's an estimate, because in the lore it doesn't give an exact measurement for them. What it states is that they are about knee high. So I assume around knee high is around the 2 or 3 foot mark. So I would say that's how big they are. Now they can be found by themselves, but much more often they are found working in groups. So when you encounter this creature in the forest, you would be facing off against several of them at a time. Now we'll get into a little bit of their abilities and stuff that they do. The Pukwudgie possesses the power to shapeshift, and their favorite form to take is that of a very large porcupine. Now you can always tell that it's not exactly a normal porcupine because from behind it will look like a normal porcupine, but from the front it'll appear slightly humanoid. So there'll be a little bit of a human aspect to it. It'll make you kind of look twice and go, wait a minute, that's strange. While it's in the form of a porcupine, the creature can very quickly rise up on its hind legs. It'll run right at you and it can stab you with its razor sharp spines, or if it chooses to, it can even shoot them at you from a distance. Now, in most versions of the lore, these spines will be coated with a very potent poison, which will cause a horrifyingly painful death. The Pukwudgie can also shift into other forms as well. The lore talks about them transforming into large cougars in some cases, and other dangerous animals like bears or venomous snakes. The Pukwudgie also has the power to plant thoughts in your mind, and even control your mind in some cases. In this aspect, it's a lot like the Wraith that we did the show on last week, where it can cause you to try to hurt yourself or to hurt those that are with you. Another power that the Pukwudgie possesses is the ability to conjure fire from out of thin air. So what they'll do is they'll use this power to form like a fireball almost, and they will hurl it at people to catch them on fire. And they can also use that power to start wildfires that will burn people's houses that have dared to build in their forest without offering the proper gifts. Their gray color helps them to blend into the forest, like I said before, but they also have the ability to bend light as well, and this can make them appear to be invisible. The same ability to bend and manipulate light can also give them the ability to glow in the dark if they choose, but they can also snuff out that glow in an instant. So you can see something in the distance in the forest glowing, and then if they realize you're watching, they can just poof, be dark again. Now, another power that the Pukwudgie has, and I think it's one of the most terrifying powers that they possess, is the ability to control your spirit even after death. So let's say that you are out hiking in the forest and you have no idea that these creatures even exist. Now, obviously, having no knowledge of them, you do not think to offer up any gifts. The Pukwudgies see this as an ultimate sign of disrespect, and they hunt you down. So you see a large porcupine walking down the trail, and you get your camera ready because you want to capture this rare natural treat. But suddenly the creature leaps up, and before you can move, it shoots several long, sharp spines directly into your chest. You fall and begin flopping around on the ground, screaming in pain for what seems like an eternity, until finally, mercifully, you die. Now, unfortunately for you, your ordeal isn't over, because instead of passing peacefully into the afterlife, your spirit is now being held prisoner by the Pukwudgie. So now, whether you like it or not, you are a warrior in this unholy army of the damned, and the Pukwudgie can send you out to hunt or terrorize anyone that it wants. Now, there have been sightings of the Pukwudgie for centuries by thousands and thousands of people. So this is more than just some old legend. This is a creature that has an uninterrupted stream of sightings that are still taking place today. This creature is primarily found in the New England area, but there have been sightings elsewhere. So it appears that maybe the Pukwudgie has begun to spread out. From this day forward, every time that you hear a story about somebody becoming lost in the woods and dying or falling off a cliff, there will be a small part of you, a little voice in the back of your mind that'll be whispering, Pukwudgie. Now for the million-dollar question. Do these things exist? To me, it's not as simple as a yes or no answer with this one. This is a creature that pretty much nobody has ever heard of. Very few people have ever heard of the Pukwudgie outside of Native American tribes. But there are a lot of sightings of this thing. You don't have the amount of sightings like you have with Bigfoot or something like that. So there's not hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands or millions of sightings of this thing. But there are several thousand sightings going back for centuries. So if you're going to say that this thing does not exist at all, then that means that all of those people are wrong. They're either lying or they're just plain wrong. Maybe they saw something else and they are thinking that it's this creature. When I said earlier that its favorite form to take on is that of a large porcupine, I wonder if a lot of these sightings weren't of very large porcupines and they thought that they looked kind of off and they must have been the Pukwudgie. I can say that there's no photographic evidence of these things, and I'm not even really aware of any other evidence like we have of Bigfoot where we have tracks and stuff like that, castings made of footprints. I don't think that there's any of that for the Pukwudgie. So I think what we're dealing with here is a legendary creature that has a long line of sightings, but no actual physical evidence. Now I know a good deal about the Pukwudgie because I grew up in the Native American culture. I am part Cherokee, part Blackfoot. So I grew up hearing these stories, going to powwows and stuff like that, and hearing the old timers talk about these things. And I can tell you that to a lot of them, this is absolutely a real creature. But like most things, the younger generations don't take as seriously the stuff that the older generations believed. So you have a certain percentage of the native population that do not believe that these things exist anymore, the younger people. But there are still younger people that do believe it as well. But on my ruling on this one of whether or not these things actually do exist, it's possible. I can't say yes beyond a shadow of a doubt these things exist because, one, I've never seen one, and I've spent a hell of a lot of time in the woods. Now, granted, I have not spent a hell of a lot of time in the woods in New England. The majority of my life has been spent in Virginia in the mountains, in Illinois, and the swamp areas throughout the Midwest, and down in Texas, and then over in Europe. So I haven't really spent any time in New England. So it would stand to reason that I wouldn't see this thing being out in the woods all the time because that's its primary habitat is the New England area. Two, there's a lack of physical evidence. That does not always mean that something does not exist. Okay, don't get it twisted. There are a lot of things that there's almost no physical evidence or no physical evidence of that I believe exist. But with this one, there's no tracks, there's no hair, there's no nothing like that. So it all comes down to the eyewitness reports for me and the lore. The lore is very realistic. Okay, so when they talk about this, it's not like some fanciful fairy tale. There's warnings in the lore about these things, to be careful of these things, to watch out for the Pukwudgie if you're in the forest. There's even talk about different kinds of gifts and what the Pukwudgie would find acceptable and not find acceptable and that kind of thing. So to me, there's a lot of detail for it to be something that's made up. So I would say, do these things exist? It's possible. They very well could. I think there's something there. There's something to this lore. There's something to this legend. There's way too much detail and too much information for it to be completely made up. So my ruling on it is possible to probable that they exist. So I'm going to throw over to Old Boy and get his opinion on the Pukwudgie and if he thinks that they're real or not, and see what he thinks about the legend and about the eyewitness reports.
And thank you. This is a very interesting one. The Pukwudgie. It sounds very similar to a leprechaun, other than it doesn't have gold and it doesn't have a shiny what are they? They're the belt buckle and the pants, the green pants, and talks with Irish accent. The Pukwudgie is a little. Sorry to say, he seems like a little bastard, a mean little bastard, not American badass. He's a bastard. And what I've read is what James has been saying. They're not friendly. They used to be, I guess, but they caused us more problems and grief than anything. I guess they tried to be nice to us, and when they did, it didn't work. It backfired, or bad things would happen. They were just bad karma, pretty much. They were just bad news. And so I guess they ended up becoming enemies and hating humans. And like James was saying, they got in a fight with that god and killed him. And there's another stories about it too, that they were killed by the god. Most of them were killed off by the god in hiding. There was just different stories, but I'll go with the one James said, because you know how modern time is. People change things to make it sound better. These creatures you didn't want to run into because they had little bow and arrows with poison, or they could shift change to porcupines and cougars. And you would think you're just, like he was saying, like the guy, you'd be out hiking, mind your own business, and you walk against this little weird looking, bigger than normal porcupine, and all of a sudden these spikes come out and shoot you and basically kill you. And then he was telling me they could steal your soul. That one's weird right there. See, I don't know if I believe that, but I mean, that sounds like that sounds like a fairy tale thing. Like with leprechauns, that with them, you find your pot of gold, or they could take your soul. And then fairies can make you dance around a circle till you died. It sounds like, I hate to say this, but fairies don't like us too much, or fairy people, because there's fairies, goblins, trolls. No, I don't know if gnomes you would consider them bad, but I know they're in the same kind of level. And some things like Harry Potter, they're even famous. Like they even talk about the Pukwudgie in Harry Potter. And I was telling James about this earlier, and I guess they're like in their lore. Because we know the Harry Potter lore, they make all kinds of stuff about gnomes and trolls, that they're a distant cousin of the European goblin. And it could be true because they're gray and ugly looking and have big ears. It kind of looks like they're small, like 2-3 feet, but they're like inbred with troll and goblin. Sounded like that, kind of like a hobbit, but a bad hobbit kind of. But, weird with a big head and ears instead of big feet. So the way I think about this creature is this, they said this was and he was talking about in New England. I've even heard they've been seen in Delaware, Canada, and they even said even in Texas in some places there's been stuff talked about them recently. But most of it's in the New England area, and in that area. So Delaware's by there. So in Canada, there's certain parts where you can go right over Niagara Falls. I'm from Pennsylvania. I never heard about this. Like James said, he lives in Virginia. I live in Pennsylvania. I was bordered by Ohio, but I never heard of the Pukwudgie. Still, James has told me before. He's talked about it months ago, and I'm like, what is the Pukwudgie? And he said it's kind of like American version of the leprechaun, but they're badass. They're worse. They're evil. It sounds like they're little bastards. So I mean, I guess if you make them mad, you're going to pay, because it sounds like that's how they are. And they what I read is they can kill you by shooting spikes, arrows. They can make you, actually they can make you, like he was saying with certain other things, can make you, like the Wraith can make you do, like, they can brainwash you basically to kill yourself or jump off a cliff, so basically cause you to do suicide. And I'm wondering if these things are real. It's that sometimes some of these suicides that happen in the forest, because I know in Japan they have a forest, it's called the suicide forest or something, and there are a lot of people have killed themselves there. And I'm wondering, maybe these creatures are there. Maybe that's where they got remember the Gremlins movie? They were nice till they got eat or got wet after a certain time at night, and then, or they got wet. They got these little nasty little creatures, and they killed people and did bad, nasty things and tricks and stuff. It sounds similar to where they got this, other than the changing part of it. And they were actually, like I said, a good at one time, but they just ended up just not being good. They were good, but they were not good for us to be around, because they were just not safe. They would, oh, we're going to build you a castle, and the castle fell on you and killed you. We're going to bake you a giant dinner. Well, the dinner blew up and killed you too. That's the kind of stuff that would happen. So that's why they were more a nuisance. So people didn't want them around anymore, and so they got jealous, and all these wars happened with the Indian lore. and that's why you have them. And then now they've taken revenge, or they hate us, so they'll hide in the forest. And if you don't give them a certain treat, the one thing you don't have to answer it now, James, but in a little bit, as I forgot what you can give them. Like I didn't know what was their surprise or their gift they would take that would actually, where they wouldn't kill you, they would just play little mean tricks on you, like steal your camping gear or your food. I forgot what the little gift is. That maybe he can tell me in a minute or a couple minutes and tell me what that was. But that sounds like kind of like goblin, gnome, leprechaun stuff, fairy things evil fairies would do, mischief. But they take it to another level. They could kill you if you don't please them. Kind of sounds like the Kappa. From them killing you, gave them a pickle, or you compliment them, or they wouldn't kill you. Like it's weird. Like you give them enough present or gold or something. I don't know. Whatever you gave them, and it was good enough for them, then they wouldn't kill you. But if you didn't, it's like a disrespectful thing, and they're going to kill you. They do something crazy. They'll kill you while you sleep and kill your whole family, kidnap your kids. That's another thing they like to do. They like to kidnap kids and then do whatever godly things to them. And that's another thing you had to worry about with these things. Do I think they're real and even want to go there? I'll tell you in a minute what I think and how I feel about that. It's going to be very interesting that you guys to hear my opinion on this. It isn't going to be something you might be surprised about. All I'm going to tell you is, if they are real, I've never seen them. I've been camping all my life. I went up to when I moved to Pennsylvania. Before I moved there, we were up in the forest. I never seen anything. I moved to California in the desert, never seen anything. I've been to the Sierras, I've been to Oregon, I've been to other states. I've been to most 30 something states in this country. I've never seen anything. I've camped everywhere. I've never came across of anything like that. I've seen giant creatures like in front of me. That's another story. And ghosts and stuff like that, demons, whatever. I've never seen a Pukwudgie. And like James was saying earlier, that he's been, and he has, guys. He's a survivalist. He does this stuff for fun. He's not only does he write awesome books, and he's an awesome co-host, and he's awesome at singer and guitar player. He also is an awesome survivalist. He's seen things, Bigfoot. He's seen other crazy things, bear attacks. He's seen ghosts. He's never seen a Pukwudgie either. And it would be where he goes because he's gone all over the place too. And camped whenever. You can give this guy a knife. He can live for years and you would never, and he'd come back and you would think he was dead and he would be still alive. Like MacGyver. He basically is a walking MacGyver. And that's funny and then to know that. But that's what he does. And he's never seen this, so I take his word because he loves doing this kind of stuff. We'll get into this. Do I think they exist? They might. Do I think they've been exaggerated? Yes. Do I think they're stolen from another lore? Yes. I think they might have been here, and I believe the Indians, trust me, anything the Native Indians say, I believe, because they weren't liars. And they have a lot of history. They have stuff from talking about these. I believe they existed, maybe been exaggerated, but they might have been their version of goblins or what do you say, gnomes or evil gnomes. I wouldn't say gnomes, evil gnomes, or their version of the goblin because they're supposed to be related to a goblin. And goblins are nasty little creatures. So if you ever seen the Lord of the Rings, you guys seen goblins in there. Goblins, trolls. Nasty, nasty creatures, and they hate humans. They want to kill you and eat you. So they're part of that family. So I'm starting to realize that this family hates us. They want to eat us. So the leprechauns are part of them too. I guess we really did some nasty things to them that make them hate us, but they hate us. And if they did exist, and some of them do, I believe. I think some of it's been exaggerated. But I think that that's what happens over time. But I think that these are creatures you don't want to run into. Little gray, nasty little creatures that have big ears, giant ears. And have you guys ever seen that movie Troll? There's goblins and stuff. I think there was a Pukwudgie in there. I don't know if you remember that movie, James. You could talk in a minute about it. But I think there was a Pukwudgie there. So, and he was a little nasty bastard. And a lot of these little trolls are too. They're really nasty. I mean, you guys have seen the Troll Under the Bridge, the movies they make of trolls, they're nasty creatures. Fairies, majority of the time, some of them are nasty, some of them are not. Like you've seen the labyrinth. Remember, he goes, "Oh, it's a fairy," and she got bit. And he goes, "What do you think? Not all fairies are nice?" And he killed the thing. So it was they're not nice. They're mischief, and they cause problems, and they like to instigate things. And some of them actually like to kill you and kidnap your kids and do bad things to them, or turn them into fairies. So maybe that's where the whole thing you were talking about, they take the soul. And I just thought about this. It was crazy when he was talking about how they take your soul. Maybe this is one of their tricks they get, like the fairies do. They'll take your soul, or take your kid's soul, or jump into your baby. And maybe this is their way of kidnapping you forever. And you get into the army of the dead, like he was saying, in the underworld. So you just become another number, and they can make you do whatever they want. Just kind of like a necromancer would do with a spirit or something. They would send them after you, and make them do their bidding. So this is probably what they do. The Pukwudgies send, if they can't get somebody in another way, they'll get you to do it with the ghost, or the spirit, whatever you want to call it, and they send it after you, so it attacks you. So they don't have to leave their wonderful little home in the forest. So that kind of makes sense. That's kind of weird. I kind of might believe that. That's something I might believe on the Pukwudgie. But I think it's probably exist. Do I think it's 100% sure? No. I think maybe 40, 45%, maybe 50. Other than the story's been exaggerated a lot. I think that happens over time with Native Americans when they tell their stories. Everything gets, the children misinterpret it, and it gets changed over to something. Just with everybody, not even just Native Americans, everybody does that. Irish have their stories of the leprechaun. It all gets exaggerated over time, and then Hollywood gets a part of it. You know how that goes. Hollywood makes it a whole nother level, and books get involved, and they exaggerate everything, and we all know how they do that. Do I think it's real? Probably, maybe. Not 100% sure. I don't know. What do you think, James?
Well, I know for sure that some of the Fae, which is the fairies, are real. Because I've dealt with a troll before. I know that sounds insane. I'll tell that story here in a few minutes. The whole thing with it being the American version of the leprechaun, it doesn't really share any real aspects of the leprechaun. It's mainly just because the leprechaun is a fairy and this thing is a fairy. See, fairy is kind of like a classification. People think of fairy, they think of Tinkerbell. But saying something is a fairy is just like saying that you are a mammal. I'm a mammal. Elephants are mammals. Rhinos are mammals. Monkeys are mammals. They're all different creatures. Very different creatures. But they're in the same classification of mammal. That's kind of what fairy or fae is. You have fairies, you have leprechauns, you have trolls, goblins, all kinds of little creatures like that fall into this category of fairy. And this thing, it very well might be the American version of a goblin, really, if you really want to break it down. It has more in common, I think, with a goblin than it does a leprechaun. But I agree with Old Boy. This thing's a little bastard. I mean, it's kind of funny because if you think about it, the Pukwudgie was like that friend that we all have that means well, but they just can't do anything right. No matter what they try to do, they screw it up, and they're just a big pain in the ass. And that's kind of what the Pukwudgie was. And they just kind of got tired of the Pukwudgie messing things up, so we went and we tried to get help, and that pissed the Pukwudgie off, and then we have this whole problem. But I also like the thing that he said about the Gremlins movie. That's kind of interesting too. I never really thought of that before. The thing about the gifts that he asked earlier as well. There wasn't any specific particular gift that like this is the right gift and anything else is wrong. It's more of the level of the gift. So in other words, if you leave them some tasty, yummy food, or you leave them something valuable, gold or a jewel of some sort, or money, something that's valuable, then that is a show of respect. If you leave them garbage, basically, if you just like pick up a leaf or a pine cone and offer it up as a gift, there's no value to that. That doesn't cost you anything. So that's a sign of disrespect. It's more about respect than disrespect. And that makes sense when you think about where this lore comes from. Like I said earlier, I grew up in the native culture. I am part Cherokee, part Blackfoot. I'm also part Irish and Scottish as well. With the native culture, it's all about honor. It's a lot like the Asian culture in that aspect. Honor is everything. It makes sense that this creature puts a big emphasis on respect and honor. It completely makes sense to me. So that could be where that comes from. I think that this lore, you have to remember when things were passed down through the generations back then. The majority of times in the native culture and in a lot of other cultures like it around the world, it was an oral tradition, okay? It was passed down through stories. It's kind of like that thing you did back in school where, that game of telephone, where you start with one sentence and you say it and it gets passed down the line. And by the time it gets to the end of the line, it's different than when it had originally started. I think you have some of that in the oral traditions as well. As Old Boy would say, they get exaggerated. You know, it starts off as this tale, and then it ends up something a little bit different by the end, and things kind of get blown out of proportion a little bit. And I think that probably happened here, as it's happened with a lot of the different mythologies, because they weren't written down. You know, in some cultures around the world, they wrote their legends down. So generations that would come could look at the legend that was written down, whether it was in hieroglyphics or whether it was in manuscripts, you know, on papyrus, or whether they carved it into pottery. It was there to look at. So you could read it and say, oh, this is the legend. This is right here. It's what it says. But with an oral tradition, they're just telling a story over and over again. And I'm a storyteller. That's what I do for a living, is I tell stories. I write books. And I can tell you that one thing a storyteller loves to do is tell a good story. And that involves exaggeration. It involves making things larger than they actually are to make them interesting. So I can see some of that happening as the story gets passed down generation to generation. So I think what we're dealing with here is some sort of real creature. And it most likely is even a fairy creature. They would be under that classification. I think it is most likely either a goblin or something like a goblin, maybe some kind of creature that's in between maybe a goblin and a troll kind of thing. But I don't think every aspect of the legends are 100% true. And I don't think they're outright fabrications. I don't think that anybody's lying about it. I just simply think that it's been exaggerated as time went on. As this story was passed from generation to generation, I think some things naturally get inflated. And I think that's what happened here. Now, the story about the troll. I told the story before about the werewolf attacking us. And I've told the story before about this weird dog with two different colored eyes that we saw in multiple towns. There's a bunch of stuff that happened in this time period that was very, very strange. And in that time period, right out of high school, is when we had a run-in with what I believe to be a troll. I believe it to be a troll because when I first saw it, it was at a bridge, a very spooky looking bridge in the woods. And ever since that day that I saw it there, I saw it all over the place. Wherever I went, it was like this thing was following me. But it wasn't like walking right behind me following me. It would just be off in the distance. You know, it would peek out from behind a tree and be looking at me. Or out from behind a building. That kind of thing. And my buddy John, who does the theme music for this show, he saw it as well all the time. Because he was with me when we originally saw the thing. Because we were trying to find a party. Let me explain. Back in those days, there was not a whole lot to do. I live in the South in a little small town. And there's not a lot to do here. This was a time before internet. It was a time before cell phones. Hell, it was a time when there was only like 20 channels or something. It wasn't even anything really to watch on TV. You didn't have like cable like you have now where you have 70, 80, 90 channels. There was no such thing as satellite TV back then or anything like that. So there was really not a whole lot to do. So what you would do when you were young like that is you would drink and you would party and you would go and look for chicks. Well, you couldn't party right there in the middle of town because you'd get arrested because you're too young to drink. You're not supposed to be doing that kind of thing. So you would always party out in the woods somewhere. Usually it was at a little pull-off spot down by the river, or there was this really cool spot down by this bridge where we used to go to drink. There was a lot of different spots like that. And what you would have to do is you would have to kind of plan what you were doing early because there was no cell phones. So you couldn't get in touch with each other. So you would try to call each other on a regular landline telephone, but a lot of times you wouldn't catch anybody. So what you do is you ride into town and see if you saw anybody. Now, we all had CB radios in our cars back then. So you could get on the CB and you could, try to talk to people and see if you could find them and figure out where they were. So anyway, we heard that there was this really cool party going on down by this bridge. So we rode down there to try to find it. The problem was there was 3 or 4 different bridges that people like to party at, so it could have been any one of the 4. The person that told us about it wasn't sure where everybody was, just that it was at a bridge. So we go out looking, trying to find this party. The first bridge we come to, there's absolutely nothing there. It's a ghost town. There's nobody. Nothing's going on. It's just dark and quiet, so we bail. The second bridge we came to was back in the woods a ways, and it was really a spooky looking place. And so we go back there, and maybe that's where everybody is because we've partied there before, and there was nobody there. We were about to leave to go to the next bridge to try to find the party when I heard something rustling around. Now, one of my downfalls is I'm a very inquisitive person. I'm very curious. And I also can't just run away from something. I don't really have any fear. I'm not afraid of any of these damn things. That's what people need to realize, that just the act of talking about all of these things and the supernatural and the paranormal and messing around with them and all this, it kind of draws this stuff to you. So you're putting yourself at risk and danger doing what we do. But I'm not afraid. And I wasn't afraid then either. So I hear this rustling around, and I want to find out what the hell this thing is. Now, my buddy does not share my lack of fear, and he does not share my desire to find out just what in the hell is making that racket. So he does not come with me. But he also does not walk back to the car because he does not want to make that walk by himself because it's dark and it's spooky out there. So I go walking down towards the bridge a little bit further, following the sound, trying to figure out what's going on. I get down to the bottom, and the bridge is a concrete bridge, okay? And it's got like an arch to it. So you have the bridge on top, and then there's like a arch with a hole inside that goes underneath that you can go all the way through to the other side. It's a fairly wide bridge, so there's quite a bit of room there. So only a couple feet going in is actually lit up by moonlight, and the rest of it is very, very dark. So I get down to the opening of the hole underneath the bridge there. And I'm wondering to myself, do I actually want to walk inside that dark hole? Now, I'm not thinking there might be a troll in it. I'm not thinking there might be a serial killer or, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, something like that waiting for me. Because frankly, if it's a killer in there, I'll whoop his ass. I'm not afraid of him. But what I'm thinking is it was towards the end of summer, beginning to go into fall. Around that time is when the bears are really, really trying to eat as much as they can because they're getting ready to go hibernate soon. So they're in this mad frenzy to consume as many calories as possible to build up as much fat as possible to make it through the winter and survive. What was on my mind at that moment was the idea that there might possibly be a very large and very hungry black bear inside that large dark hole. So I was trying to decide if I actually wanted to go in there or not. Because one thing you do not want to run into is a very startled and hungry bear, because they will not be friendly. As I'm sitting there thinking, I hear the rustling around again. And I kind of lean a little bit in, trying to look and see what I can see. And a little over halfway in, I see what I think is this glowing red light. But I only see it for a moment. And I'm not sure if my eyes are playing tricks on me or if I actually saw red. Now, I thought that's kind of strange if I saw red because it's dark as hell in there. There is no moonlight that is penetrating that deep under the bridge, so it can't be eye shine. And for those that don't know, if you're not used to being out in the woods, what eye shine is, if light shines onto an animal's eyes at night, they will become reflective and they will appear to glow, basically. So a lot of times it's a yellowish look to it. Sometimes it can be different colors, depending on the animal, depending on the light source. But there is no moonlight that is penetrating that deeply, so it cannot be eye shine. So now I'm really curious, and I really want to know what the hell's in there. Because the only thing I can think that would be red inside of that area would be some sort of flashlight or some sort of man-made thing. So that means there's a person way up underneath that bridge. Now what I want to know is, one, who that person is, and two, what the hell are they doing way back deep in the woods up underneath the bridge all by themselves, shuffling around all quiet and sneaky like. So I decide that I'm absolutely going to walk into that deep dark hole and figure out if I actually saw red or not. And if it is a bear in there, then I'm just going to have to deal with it. And by deal with it, I mean try to fight for my life and get away if I can. So I start to walk into the darkness, and this whole time I'm hearing this little bit of shuffling around. And as I start to walk into the darkness, I get a couple steps in, and the shuffling around stops. Now it's silent. I can't tell you just how unsettling that is. When you're used to hearing a shuffling sound or something like that, and you already got that adrenaline flowing. You're hyped up, you're pumped up, you're ready for combat. And then all of a sudden, silence. But that's what happened. It was unsettling enough to make me stop walking for a second and just wait and listen. Because a lot of times before an animal attacks you, it'll get very, very still and very, very quiet. And then after the silence, there's a flurry of activity. Chaos erupts. And there's an attack. And that's what I'm expecting at this moment. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe what I saw was eye shine, and there's something in here that's getting ready to jump on me. Now, at the time, I did not have my pistol, because I did not have my concealed carry permit and all that. I didn't carry a pistol around with me. What I did have was my Bowie knife, which I always carried with me. So I pulled that sucker out. Now, I don't know what that's going to do against a bear. It is long enough to penetrate the fat layer, but it's not going to do substantial damage. I'm going to probably die. But I'm going to go down with a fight. So I've got my knife in my hand, and I'm ready to fight whatever the hell it is that is in this hole. What was completely dark a second ago, now I see not one, but two red lights. And I think, what the hell is that? So I take a couple more steps in, and the red lights turn and disappear again. But now I can see that it's not just that the light is going out, it's that whatever that red light is that was looking at me has turned away from me. And then the shuffling begins again, and I hear it, and I understand that it is not the sound of shuffling as much as it is the sound of something moving away from me. I'm hearing the feet moving away, shuffling through the debris that's underneath the bridge. So I kind of stand there and I watch, trying to decide if this thing is moving away or moving towards me, because it's kind of hard to figure out. And as I'm looking, I see this little thing get to the other end of the bridge and get into the moonlight. And I only see it for a couple seconds before it takes off. But it was a small little humanoid form. So either I saw a troll that night, or there was some weird little midget underneath the bridge with glowing red eyes. It ran away. I ended up leaving because I didn't see it again. We went and we found the party. We had a good night. But after that night, for months after that, we would just see this thing pop up at random times. we'd be going someplace, and there it would be. It wouldn't come up to us. It would just be off in the distance. It would pop out from behind something and just stare and watch me. And when it saw that I noticed it and started to move towards it, it would retreat again. Nothing ever actually came of it. I never got to get close enough to kill the thing. And it never killed me. It never attacked me at all. I don't know what it wanted. I don't know why it was watching me. Maybe because I disrupted its home. You know, maybe that's where it lived, and I just come stomping into it like a crazy redneck, and it just wanted to kind of show me who was boss or whatever, or maybe it was just kind of following me around to watch me, make sure I wasn't a threat. I don't know. It would be a much better story to tell you that I killed the thing. You know, I stabbed it with my knife or something like that, but I'm going to tell you guys the truth all the time, no matter what. And I didn't. I never got close enough to kill it. It just stopped coming around. Like I said, it followed us for months. And then all of a sudden, it just wasn't there anymore. We just never saw it again. And I never will understand why. But that's the story of the run-in I had with what I believe to be a troll. And this thing, this Pukwudgie, is a lot meaner than whatever the hell that creature was that was stalking me. Because that thing never attacked me. If it would have been a Pukwudgie that would have been after me, I think there would have been a whole different ending to this story. You know, it would have ended with either the Pukwudgie dead or me dead. Because I sure as hell wasn't going to run away. You know, and if I could have got close enough to the thing, I would have saw whether my Bowie knife would have killed it or not. But that's my story of the troll. We're just about out of time. So I'm going to throw back over to Old Boy for a few final thoughts, and then he'll do his shout-outs.
And thank you, brother. That was a very interesting story about your troll. I hope everybody enjoyed that. I did, because I was like, wow, that's a pretty interesting story. And the Pukwudgie, I hope you guys really enjoyed this. And we kind of got to the troll because eventually we're going to do a show on them, too. So that's kind of why we kind of got it to the end of the troll. We don't know what we're going to do next week. We'll let you know soon, in a couple days. We always do. I want to give a shout out to all our listeners on YouTube and on ParaX or whatever other affiliates they have. Tune in, and everybody on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Thank you for following our show on Staring into the Abyss. And we're going to try to make it go live either on YouTube or Facebook. We're trying to figure it out, but soon we're going to do it on Tuesday nights, hopefully. So we could figure it out, though. That's it. And if you guys want to get merchandise like shirts, hoodies, bandanas, check out our site. He'll tell you where it is after I'm done. Always, if you want to listen to our old shows and newer shows, check us out on James Hershey Jr.'s YouTube page. We're also on Facebook. Try to like our page. That's what we're trying to do, is get that like page up. Because we haven't really done we don't do a lot of advertising. And still, we got a big fan base, millions of people. But still, we just don't do it on social media. And we've been trying to get into it. But that's what the difference is from us, from most other people. We're like this hidden gem. And I think we're one of the best in the world that do what we do. And I want to thank everybody. I hope everybody has a great night. I love you, Misfits, Sugar Ladies, and Demon Hunters. I love you. Have a good night. Blessed be.
Our Facebook page is facebook.com/staring into the abyss. Like Old Boy said, please stop by the page and give it a like. We're trying to get all those numbers up. We're really, really bad at advertising and marketing. You know, we have Facebook page, we have all these different things, and we don't ever promote any of the stuff. We don't ever get the numbers up. We just kind of make them and leave them there and move on to something else. We're kind of scatterbrained when it comes to that. So if you guys could stop by and like that page, that would be awesome. We would really appreciate that. The YouTube channel is youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. Please go there and subscribe to the page. On that page, we have all of our old videos of all the old shows. We also do other videos on there about paranormal subjects and these different creatures. We'll make little side videos and stuff. I also put evidence videos on the YouTube channel. So I'll have videos that have EVPs on them from different investigations that we've done and other people have done. I put evidence videos of different creatures that are found. with pictures and all that kind of stuff. So it's really a cool channel if you're into the paranormal. There's a whole lot of information there. There's a whole lot to learn. And there's also a lot of entertainment there, I think. So go there and subscribe and check it out if you will. The merchandise store is teespring.com/stores/staring into the abyss. That's Teespring, TEESPRING.com/stores with an S on the end /staring into the abyss. On that website, you can get all of the merchandise you want. There's shirts, hoodies, posters, towels, bags, mugs, stickers, all kinds of stuff is there. So if you want some staring merch, if you're into that kind of stuff, that's definitely a place you can go check out. The quality on that stuff is really, really good, and the price is pretty decent as well. So we've had a lot of people ask us for merch, so that's where you can get it. I'd just like to say thank you guys for all the support that you give us and all the love. We really, really appreciate that. And I hope that you enjoy listening as much as we enjoy doing this, because that's important to us. You know, it really means a lot to me that you guys enjoy the show and that you learn something while you're here. One thing that sets Staring Into the Abyss apart is there aren't very many shows that you're going to get the amount of information that you get in an episode of Staring. You know, we provide a hell of a lot of info, and I do a lot of research to bring this stuff to you guys. So I'm glad that you enjoy listening, and I'm glad that I'm able to pass on some of this knowledge. With that being said, thank you guys again for all the love and support. And until we speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.